Hello viewers. So this is Dr. Vikas and I welcome all of you once again in my individual technical solution channel. So as we have discussed last time, we have started the Informatica Intelligent Cloud Service YouTube video series, and last time already we have covered what is ETL, what is IICS, how to create the connection in the IICS for the database and flat file, etc. Also, some advanced level videos already I uploaded in my YouTube video series of IICS. And this video is nothing but the part of same IICS YouTube video series. So today I'm going to cover very important part of the IICS, and that is nothing but how we can fetch the workflow name, folder name, uh, repository username, workflow start type, project name, all these parameters, how we can fetch in IICS using a particular inbuilt formulas in case of IICS. So first we will discuss why these things are required in IICS, why we need to fetch the workflow name, folder name, username, workflow start time, project name, etc. And then step by step we will study uh, how we can fetch all these things. Okay, by creating the mapping task, workflow, etc. And then we'll load it into the target table. Okay. So as I said, first we will discuss why this information is needed in the IICS. So whatever projects you are doing in the IICS, might be a migration project, or it might be a enhancement project, or it might be a fresh development project in case of ETL. So generally this information is required, for the purpose of logging and the auditing purpose. So what do you mean by the logging and the auditing purpose information? So when we store the details like workflow name, project name, workflow start time, the username of the workflow, etc. Now this information helps us, to identify which job is actually ran in the past, when that job started, who has triggered that job. So all this information is required for the audit purpose and control purpose. And this all information is loaded into the some audit table and the control tables. So this is the primary need of any client, okay, to have all this information so that all the auditing information can be maintained in some particular tables. Also, along with this information is required, for the debugging the production issues also, because whenever the job fails in the production, uh, we can immediately fetch this kind of information like which workflow has failed, and what is the folder name of that workflow, what is the project name of that workflow, and on which date and time that particular workflow has failed, and who has triggered that workflow, who has scheduled that workflow. So all these information, can be saved in the audit table. So if all this information is handy in the audit table, then we can save a lot of investigation time, for the debugging purpose. So that is the reason we need all this information, like workflow name, project name, folder name, workflow start time, etc. Okay. So today I will demonstrate you practically how we can fetch all this kind of information. Okay. Now we will follow certain steps, and using that step you will get the clear idea how you can do all these things. Okay. Now step one is creation of the target table with the required fields. Okay. Now first we will create the target table. So our first step is creation of the target table. So I am using the Oracle database. So here you can see I have already my queries ready here. So we are creating the table with the audit info. Okay. And we are having this field inside that table: project name, folder name, workflow name, username, and the workflow start time. Okay. So let's create the table first. Okay. So our table is getting created. Okay, so let's check that our table has created. Okay, you can see the table audit info is created. Okay, now what is the second step? Let's go to our second step. Our second step is creation of mapping and in-out parameters. Okay, now we need to create the mapping. Okay, and then inside that mapping we will create the in-out parameters. So if you guys don't know about the mapping and in-out parameters, so in the further upcoming series, I am going to cover these basic details also. Okay. So for the time being today, let's complete our second step because we already created the our table, that is the audit info table. Okay. Now let's go to the mapping. So this is my IICS portal. Okay. Data integration service I have chosen. Now we have to create the mapping first, and then we'll create the mapping task and then workflow. Okay. And then I will explain you the hierarchy, how the information is flowing from top to bottom. Okay. Now first we will create the mapping. Okay. So create the mapping. Okay. Before creation of the mapping, we have to create the project name and the folder name. Okay. So first I will show you how to create the project name. Just create on the new project and here give the name of the project, relevant project name. Like for example, I give the project name as IICS Audit Info. Okay, this is my project name, and I copy the same project name as a description here also. Okay, so once you create the project name, now inside the project name you have to create a folder, and I am creating the folder name as IICS Audit. Okay, now this project name, folder name depends on the project you are doing. So here, just for understanding purpose, I am selecting the random names. Okay. Now, once your uh, folder name and project name is ready, now we have to create the mapping. Okay. So simply you can go to the your project name, and inside the project name you have your folder name. From after this, just select the mapping, create mapping. Okay. And also give the relevant name to the mapping. So friends, keep in mind the nomenclature is also very important in case of the IICS project or ETL projects. So whenever you will get the requirement or some project documents, definitely you will get all these things. What name should be given to the mapping, what name should be given to the session or the mapping task, and what name should be given to the workflow. So here our we are doing the auditing related information we are fetching. Okay, so just for the sake of that, I am giving the name as M audit info. Okay, so this is my mapping name. Okay, now what we are going to achieve with the help of this mapping? So we have to configure the target here because we are going to load the data in the target. Okay, and in between source and target, we will be needing one expression here. Okay, so now here using the source, we are not going to fetch any information here. Okay, because we are using this mapping, to fetch the data from a particular workflow, because from the workflow we are going to pass the data to this mapping, and through the mapping we are going to load the data into our target. Okay, now here our source will be a dummy source. Okay, I will show you how to create the dummy source. Okay, then this expression. Now in this expression, we will configure all our parameters like workflow name, project name, etc. Okay, so first we have to create the in-out parameter, and then inside this expression we will configure the in-out parameter, and we will assign the value which is coming from the workflow to this in-out parameter. Okay. Now I am giving the name to the expression as expression audit param. Okay. And to the target, I'm giving the name as a TGT audit info. Okay. Now first let's create the in-out parameter, because in-out parameter, using the in-out parameter, will store the value which is coming from the workflow, because this particular workflow name, project name, workflow start time, folder name, these all the information can become available only through the task flow or the workflow. Okay. So hierarchy of the passing the information will be like, will give the formula at the workflow level, then information from the workflow level will be flow to the mapping level. Okay. Actually, between the workflow and the mapping, there is a mapping task, because inside the mapping task, we are going to configure our mapping. Okay. So once all these things ready, I will explain you this hierarchy. Now we have to create the 5 in-out parameters. Okay. As per our requirement, we need all this information to be stored. Okay. And load into the target table. So I am creating the in-out parameter as first one, project name. I am giving the precision of 200 for this. Okay. And then second, folder name. Then we have the workflow name. Then we have the user name. So all these are the string related. That's why we are keeping the data type as a string only. Okay. Now we have the workflow start time as a fifth parameter. So for this, we have to give the date time as a data type. Okay. So date time, and it will automatically take the precision and the scale by default. Okay. Now we have created the in-out parameters. So guys, if you don't know about the in-out parameters, input parameters, that things I will cover in the next upcoming series. Okay. So today our focus is what? How to create the workflow mapping task and the mapping to get the audit information. Okay. Now, once these things are done, we have to now configure the source, expression, and the target. Now, as I said, we'll configure the source as a dummy source only. Okay, so we will use the DB Oracle connection, and from here we will choose the object type as a query, and here I will just write select star from dwell. So dwell is a kind of dummy table that we can use for the when we have to perform such kind of operation. Okay. Now just validate it. Okay. Now by the time it's getting validated, let's check out whether our table has been created successfully or not. So we have created the table as a audit underscore info. Okay, so my database is running slightly slow, so it's taking some time. Okay, let's see here. It's still getting validated. Okay, Oracle doesn't allow the semicolon at the end. So, but if you see the other databases like Snowflake, it is allowed. So it is depends on the what kind of database you are using. Slightly the syntax can be varied. Now we have configured the source, then go for the expression. Now here in case of expression, now whatever the in-out parameter we have configured, okay. So this in-out parameter will receive the value from workflow. Okay. Okay. So in order to store that values, here we have to create the beside the expression. So we have to create the 5 variables. Okay. So as a output fields. Okay. Now I'm giving name it as a project name. Now, now this project name field, from where it will get the value? So it will get the value from workflow. Okay. Now this value will be stored by the in-out parameter. Okay. And how we can specify it here? How we can assign it to the field which you have created? So for that purpose, you have to go to the parameters, click on the project name. So this $$ project name, this particular parameter will receive the value from the workflow. Now, how it will be, how the value will be passed from workflow to the mapping input in out parameter, that I will explain once all these things get configured. Okay. Now, second uh, field we have to create in the expression folder name and give the same precision which you have given to the in-out parameters. Okay, let me switch it. There is some more UI issue. Okay, so then let's configure the our next field inside the expression and assign the value to it. Now value to it will be the whatever the value in the in-out parameter. So workflow name. Then next we have the username. Create the output field username. Assign the value to the field username from the in-out parameter. Okay. And last one we have the workflow start time. Now for this, the data type will be different. We have to give the data type as a date time and assign the value to this also in the parameter. Okay, let me save it and let me refresh the browser. We are not able to see these things properly here. Now, next step we have after now currently we are configuring the mapping. After configuration mapping, we have to create the mapping type. Now, in case of IICS, if you compare the IICS with the power center, the IICS gives us the more flexibility. More flexibility in the sense we can run the mapping also individually, and the we can also run the mapping with the mapping task also. But in case of power center, there is no such kind of flexibility. If you want to run the mapping, then you have to configure it inside the mapping task. Then only you can run the mapping. Okay. Now, in case of IICS, we can run the mapping separately, and also we can run the mapping by configuring it inside the mapping task. Now, you might have the question then why we need the mapping task. Okay, I will explain that also while creating the mapping task. First, let's see. Okay, now you can see uh, we have created the 5 fields here, and we have assigned the value to that field using the sub expression. Now our expression is nothing but the whatever the in-out parameter we have created. Okay. Now here you can see these are the field names: project name, folder name, workflow name, username, workflow start time. And what value you have assigned to it? You have assigned to it value as a $, project name, $, folder name, etc. etc. Okay. Now if you want to receive the value from workflow, then we have to configure the particular expression like this. Okay, with the help of the in-out parameters. Now this $, project name, folder name, it's all these parameters with the $. This will receive the value from the workflow. Now for that purpose, we have to configure the workflow in that manner. Okay, so I will show you that also. Now second step is done. Now in the second step, we have to configure the target also. Now this is our target where we are going to load all this audit information. So we are choosing the DB as our connection, DB Oracle. Now object is nothing but our audit info that we have created just now. Okay. So this table, audit info table, is now currently empty. We have to load the information like project name, folder name, workflow name, etc. into this table. And for that purpose only, we are configuring this mapping. Okay. Now here we have to do the field mapping also. Field mapping in the sense what we are doing, whatever information coming from the source and expression, that information should be loaded into the target. Now, which field should be loaded into the which target field? Okay, that things we have to configure in the field mapping. Okay, let me explain you in details. For example, you can see now these are the fields. These you can see. Let me show you correctly. These are the fields coming from the our expression, or what we can say as a incoming fields. Okay, and these are nothing but our target fields. Okay, now we have to load the information coming from this input field into the respective target fields. Okay, now for that purpose, we have to do the field mapping. Okay, so just click here and just click on the smart map. So you can see it will automatically map as per the name of your target field and the incoming field. Now after this, just go to the target again and select the truncate target. Truncate target we are selecting here because every time we need to remove the data from the target. Whenever the workflow runs, we need to remove the data from target table and load the new data into the target table. Okay, that's why we are doing the truncate target, and operation is what? Insert. Okay, so every time new information should be get loaded into our target table. Because if you run the workflow today, the today's date will be get inserted. When you run the workflow, when you will run the workflow tomorrow, today's information will get removed, and the tomorrow's details about the workflow or task flow will get loaded. So if you want to historical information also, then we can select the update operation also. But today I'm just showing you the using insert operation, truncate and load. Okay. After this, just save this, then our mapping will become valid. Okay, now our mapping has become valid. Now, next step, as I told you, is nothing but the creation of the mapping task. So just click on these three dots and click on the new mapping task. Now, what will be the name of your mapping task? So name will be we will give the name just like our mapping name only, but just now to understand this is the session or the mapping task. You can give your name as a s_audit info, or you can give the empty also, but I'm giving the s_audit info s for the session. Okay. Select the runtime environment here. This is our runtime environment. Okay. And it is good practice to give the description for your mapping as well as source, target, all the for all the objects. So I'm just giving the description as this mapping is for loading audit. Okay. Now, based on what kind of mapping you are configuring, as per the understanding of that mapping and what logic you are configuring that mapping, you can give the description. Now, for the session also, I'm giving the same description, just I'm giving this session is for loading audit info. Okay. Now click on next. So here you can see all the our in-out parameters of the mapping. Click on next. Now, as I said, in case of IICS, as we can run the mapping individually, then why we need to configure it inside the mapping task? So main reason is nothing but there are other lot of option in the mapping task due to which we have to configure the mapping inside the mapping task. What are that other option? Like there are the advanced option where you can give the pre-processing command, post-processing command. You can give the parameter file location. We can give the other advanced properties, which are related with the optimization, etc., etc. So, like if you want to set the push down optimization, that all the options are not available at the mapping level. So that option are available at the session level, at the mapping task level. So in the upcoming video series, I will explain all the details of this. Okay, so now for now, just save this mapping task, and our mapping task is also valid. Our session is also valid now. So our third step is also complete. Now let's move towards our fourth step, that is the creation of task flow or the workflow. Okay. Now again, I will create on the new, and here we have to create the task flow. So generally, if you have work, if if you have work in the legacy ETL tool, the Informatica Power Center, in that case, the name of task flow is called as a workflow. But in case of IICS, it is called as the workflow is called as a task flow. Okay, but the role of both the entities is same. You can call it as a task flow or the workflow, whatever. Now just create. Okay. Now here our main configuration will be happen here. Okay. Now inside the workflow, we have to configure the two important tasks. One is the assignment task and another is the data task. Now, what exactly the task flow? Okay, let me give the name to the task flow. The name is the TF_audit info. Okay. In short, I'm just explaining what is the task flow. In upcoming series, I will cover in details what is mapping task, task flow, etc. Okay. Now, what exactly the uh, task flow is? So, in mapping, you must have understood. Here we are configuring the different transformation. Now, these are the different transformation. Like source is a one transformation, expression transformation, target transformation, etc. So transformation in the sense we can apply the business logic, and we can transform the particular original information into the some information as per the business requirement. So likewise, there are the various transformation are there in the mapping level. Okay, one by one in upcoming series, I will cover all the transformation. So in the mapping, what we do, we just use all these transformations sequentially as per our business need, and we can load the data from source to the target by applying the different rules in between the source and target. So that is nothing but the mapping. Okay. So simply mapping, you can consider it is the collection of objects which are arranged in particular manner. Collection of objects, like you can consider the objects as a like different transformation. So these are nothing but the different collection of transformation which are arranged in particular manner, so that the data can be processed from source to the target by applying the different transformation rules in between. Okay. Then after that, we have seen the mapping task or the session. So session already we have discussed. So if you want to add the parameter files, if you want to add the extra advanced properties, like if you want to add the post processing command, pre processing command, etc., then you have to configure the mapping inside the mapping task. And task flow. Now, in the task flow, you cannot configure the mapping. Okay. In the task flow, we can configure the mapping task only. Okay. So that is the reason. That is the another reason we have to configure the mapping inside the mapping task. Now, what is the workflow or the task flow? So workflow or the task flow is nothing but it is also the collection of different what you can say the tasks. Like these are the different tasks you can see here: assignment tasks, data tasks. So I will explain all these also in upcoming video series. But for this our today's video purpose, we are going to need the assignment task and the data task. Okay. Now, what exactly the workflow you can understand here easily. So workflow is nothing but the collection of tasks arranged in particular order so that the business requirement can be fulfilled. Now here our business requirement is what we have to load the audit information into our target table. So simply from that, I am telling you the definition of task flow or the workflow. It is simply what collection of different tasks arranged in the certain manner. Certain manner in the sense, now first we have to assign the formulas to the particular parameters, and then we have to pass that particular parameters to the mapping task or the data task. And inside the mapping task or data task, we have configured the mapping. Okay. So that is the reason we are arranging these tasks, different tasks accordingly. That like first we have to configure the assignment task, and then only we have to configure the data task. So if you configure the data task first and assignment task after that, then our business requirement will not be fulfilled. So that is nothing but the task flow, where we arrange the different tasks as per the business requirement, so that data can be loaded and business requirement can be fulfilled. So now here also you can give the particular nomenclature like assignment. Now here, this assignment task we are going to use for the purpose of assigning the different formulas to the that different parameters we have created. That's why I'm giving the name to this as assignment workflow param. Okay. And now this inside this data task, we have to configure our mapping task which we have created earlier. So just I'm configuring it. Okay. Now create on the data task and go to the select data task, search it here. So we have created only one session or the mapping task. So you can see it has appeared here. Now this name also you have to give into the general section. Okay. So whatever name you will give in the general section, that will be appear inside the task flow or the workflow. You can see here. Now just save it. Okay. Now next we have to configure this assignment task. This is our main task. Okay. Now here, now you can easily see. First we have to assign the formulas here. Now these parameters already we have created at the mapping level. Okay. So we have to assign the values to that parameter. Okay. Now, as you can see, we have folder name, project name, user name, workflow start time. Now, these are the in-out parameters you can see here. Now, how we can see here, because we have already configured it at the mapping level and we have configured the mapping inside the session. That's why you can see once we click on the session, you can see all these parameters here. Okay. Now, first we have to create the same kind of parameters at the workflow level, and we have to assign the formulas to that particular parameters. So we'll create one by one. Okay. Now, where we can create it, we can create it at the temp field. We can create it as a temp field. Okay. Now we will create it as a temp field and we will also give the formulas to them. Okay. Now, for example, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay. And we'll give the name to them accordingly. Like project name, project name. Then we have the folder name. Then we have the workflow name. Then we have the username. And lastly, we have the workflow start time. Okay. So and then just save it. So you have to save the task flow or any like mapping or session time to time. Okay. So that whatever the development you have done, it will not get not get clear, because what happens depends on the environment. You might get stuck at certain point, and whatever the development you have done might get vanished. So it is very important to save the things time to time. Okay. Now, next thing is what we have to assign the formulas. Okay. Now you can see here whatever the workflow level fields we have created inside the temp fields, that that you can see here inside the our assignment task. So whenever you have to use the field for your task flow or the workflow, you can call it as a fields or the variables. Then you have to create it inside the temporary field. Okay. Now here inside the assignment task, you can do the assignment to this particular temporary fields. Okay. Now just select all these one by one. Okay. Now we have to give the formula to this. So you can see these are the fields we have created. Now, what is the main use of assignment task? Here we can assign the values with the help of content, with the help of field, with the help of formula. So whatever the temporary field we have created at the workflow level, to assign the values to them, we can use the assignment task. Now there are different ways you can assign value to these different fields. Okay. Now here we are going to use the formulas. So just select the formulas. Okay. Now you can see we have selected the formula. Now formula I have already, this formula already I have. So I'll just copy paste that formula, and you can also see what formula are there, and you can also use in your project if you need all these formulas. Okay. So one by one, we'll assign the formula for folder name, project name, username, workflow name, workflow start time. Okay. Now by that The Notepad++ is opening. Let me explain you some of the properties for the session. Now you can see these are the properties like if the warning comes for your session, then just ignore it. If the error comes, then suspend the task flow. Okay. And if this task fail, if this session fail, then fail the task flow on completion. Okay. So these are the properties. These are also depends on what project you are doing. Okay. Now, so how you will know what properties to be selected? So these are the standard properties actually generally being get utilized in every ETL projects, but some of the project might be needing the different properties. So that you will get in your requirement documents, or you can ask to the clients or your team lead what properties has to be selected here. Okay. Okay. Now my Notepad plus space is open here. So these are our formulas. Okay. Now for the PM folder name, we have to use this formula. Okay. So go to the assignment task folder name, click here and give this formula, click OK. Okay. Next, we have the project name. For the project name, we have this formula. Click OK. Then we have the username. So username in the sense who has actually triggered this particular task flow or the workflow. That information will be get fetched. Okay. Then next we have the workflow name itself. So workflow name like asset name. And then lastly, we have the workflow start time. So this will fetch the at what time the workflow has started. Okay. So this also I have configured. Now our task flow has become valid now. Now this is also done. Let's go to our stage. Now we have configured the task flow. We have added the formulas. We have added the assignment task. We have added the mapping task also. Okay, now we have to assign the our workflow level, whatever the workflow level fields we have configured. These are the workflow level fields we have configured. You can see these are the workflow level fields we have configured, and to this we have assigned this formula. Now what we have to do next? Next we have to assign the. Now we have to assign these fields to our mapping level fields, because we already assigned the formulas to these fields. So whenever you will run the workflow, the value will be stored in these fields. Okay. Understand the hierarchy. Value, whenever you run the workflow or the task flow, our values will be stored in these fields. Okay. And then from these fields, value will be flow to the data task. Okay. Now that is the reason inside the data task, we have to assign the whatever the fields we have configured at the task level, that we have to assign it to the data task level. So go to the plus button. Here you can see we have the in-out parameters configured at the mapping level or the our session level, because our mapping is configured inside the session. So we can say at the mapping level or the session level. Now this we have to configure here. Okay, so just select one by one. Now you can see as soon as I selected folder name, you can see the session level name has appeared here. Okay, then username, workflow name, and workflow start. Now you can see here, these are our input fields. Okay, now we have to assign the value to these fields. Now, how we are going to assign the value to these fields? Now, value to these fields will be get assigned using this pencil button. So click on this. Now, you can assign the value to this input field using the three different types: contains, fields, or formulas. Now we are going to use the fields because we have already created the temporary fields and we have already assigned the values to these temporary fields inside the task flow. Now our values are inside these fields. Okay. So what we will use here, we will use the assignment, the value assignment type here as a field only. We choose the field. Now which field we have to select here? The field which you have created and configured at the workflow level. So folder name we have already configured, okay, inside the assignment task. So that only we have to assign here as a value. So whatever the value inside the folder name, that will get assigned to the folder name of your data task. Similarly, for the project name, choose the assignment type as a field and select the project name. Same for the username. Then same for the workflow name. Same for the workflow start time. Now understand the hierarchy, how the information will be flowing. So as I said, if you want to load all this information like folder name, project name, username, all these things, that will be okay. You can fetch only from the workflow because we can assign such kind of formula at the workflow task level only. That is the reason we have created a temporary field here. Okay, this with all these names. Then we have used the assignment task. And in the assignment task, we have assigned the formulas to all these fields, all these temporary fields. You can see these are all our temporary fields which we have created at the task level. And we have assigned the formulas to all these fields here. Okay, now whenever the workflow will run, all the values will be there inside these fields. Okay, now next thing is what? Now once the value will be once the value will become available inside these fields, then we have assigned these fields to our fields of our data task. These are the fields which you are configured at the data task level or at the mapping level. Okay, so these are nothing but our temporary fields of our the task flow, which is containing the values of folder name, project name, etc. Now this we have assigned to the our fields which are we have created at the mapping level or at the session level. Okay, so this information will flow to these fields from the workflow level to the data task level, and inside the data task we have the mapping, so that will go to the mapping level. Okay, so this is the hierarchy. Okay, information from the workflow will be get calculated, so that we have stored inside the temporary fields, then that we are assigning to the data task, which are nothing but our these input fields of data task. And from the data task, this info will be flow to the mapping. Okay, and the mapping the inside of the mapping we have already configured the target, so the value will be go inside the respective target fields and it will be get loaded into the target table. So this is the simple hierarchy. So this hierarchy is nothing but the you can say top to bottom, like so top workflow, then session, and then the mapping. Okay, I hope you have got the hierarchy. Now once you configure all these things, you have to publish it. So publishing the task flow is very important. Now what is the other detail about the publishing, that I will explain in the upcoming video. Now for the time being, our all the tasks are completed. Here you can see we have completed all the tasks. Like we have configured the task flow, then we have added assignment tasks, data tasks. We have done the assignment of parameters. Okay, we have done the creation of temporary fields. After creation of temporary fields, we have assigned the formulas inside the assignment task, and inside the data task, we have assigned the that workflow level fields to our mapping level fields or to the session level fields. Now last step is nothing but the run the task flow. Okay. Now we have run the task flow. Let's see. So we have only one subtask. Okay. So you can see the hierarchy here. Task flow. Okay. Inside the task flow, we have the subtask as your data task, or you can call it as a session, or you can call it as a mapping task. And inside the mapping task or session, we have our mapping. This we have our mapping. Here you can see still running. So if you click on the session, we are going to have our mapping here. Okay. Now we have got one error. So error, it is saying there is a DTM kind of error for our mapping. Okay. Let's see what exactly the error is. Okay, error you can check uh, using the logs. Okay, let's open the logs and see what exactly the errors we have got. So these are the common errors generally you will get when you will work inside the when you work in the ETL industry. So in the logs, you can see all the details are regarding the particular errors. Now, what is the exactly error? Okay, error in assigning the initial value to the mapping variable workflow start time. Okay, so currently the workflow start time cannot be fetched. Okay, from the workflow. So that will now I will give the workaround for this. We can fetch the starting time or when does this workflow start or mapping start. That audit information we can pass from the mapping itself. I will show you that. First, we will remove this particular part from our task flow. So we'll remove the this particular temporary field from here, and also we'll remove it from the this input field of data task. Okay, and then we will save it and then publish it. Okay, and then again I will run this. Now you can see you can easily debug the any ETL error, okay, related with the IICS using the logs. So simply you have to see the whatever the logs has been generated, and you can find all the information related with your error. So here you can see error. This is the error. So that you can easily the logs, and accordingly you can do the fixes. Okay. Again, we have restarted our task flow. Okay, again, I think it has failed. Now let's see what is this time. Okay, we have to remove it from the we have remove it from here. Okay, we have removed from we have removed from temp field. It is not required, but let's see. Okay, we have to assign the value to this. So as I said, we cannot pass it from the workflow level. Okay, so what we will do, we'll give the formula to this at the mapping level. Okay, and what formula you can give. Now you can go to the built-in function. You can go to the date function, and from the date you can set the system timestamp and just validate it. So this is also another alternative. Now system timestamp in the sense it will give the date and time when this task flow or the when this mapping has triggered. Just save it and just also reselect it inside your session. So whenever you will do the any changes inside the mapping, you should always refresh your mapping task or session. Save it and go to the task flow and also refresh the task flow by reselecting the mapping task or the session. Okay, so this is the standard practice. So what whenever you will make the changes at the mapping level, just refresh the session and also the task flow. And then let's trigger it one more time. So let's hope for the success this time. Okay, it has started running now. And you can see it has succeeded. Okay, so it has loaded one record and you can see our session is succeeded and you can see our task flow also in success status. Now let's see what information has loaded into the our target. Okay, so earlier it was empty. Let's run the very select star from audit info. So there is a kind of slowness at the database level. So guys, you can see our audit table is loaded with the audit information. So this is our project name. Okay, this is the project name which we have created before developing the mapping. You can see IICS Audit Info. This is our folder name inside the project name. This is our task flow name, username, myself as I have triggered, and this is the workflow start time. Okay, so this kind of information is very important for debugging and the auditing purpose. Okay, whenever you are doing any ETL level project. Okay, so I hope guys you have understood all the details how we have configured the mapping task and the task flow and how we have configured the task at the task flow at the workflow level. Okay, so along with this also I have given you the trick how you can debug the mapping or workflow failure or any kind of error. Okay, so I hope this particular video will be very beneficial for all of you. And if you are benefited from this video, then just share it with your friends and colleagues so that they can also get the help. Okay, thanks all of you.